Hello, I'm Jeff Jumper with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency. I'm here with Ted Czech, the Public Information Officer from the York County Office of Emergency Management. Ted is here today to discuss his public information role during the events that unfolded at UPMC Memorial Hospital in York on Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. An active shooter entered the intensive care unit and took staff hostage. The shooter was killed by law enforcement, but it resulted in the injuries of several law enforcement officers and the unfortunate line-of-duty death of a hero, West York police officer Andrew Duarte. Ted, first, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Jerry.
To share your experiences. Why don't you first talk about giving us an overview of the event as that happened on the 22nd?
Well, it was a Saturday morning, and I first became aware of things, I believe, around 10:43 a.m.
Okay.
I was at my house, and I got an alert on my phone, and we hear these, we get alerts for all sorts of things.
Sure.
Some of them are not, they don't turn out to be what they start out to be. Let's put it that
Sure.
way. And so I thought maybe this was one of those cases where it was going to be a false alarm, shall we say.
Sure.
It turned out not to be the case at all. And so I touched base with my boss at the Office of Emergency Management, and he said for me to come in and we would take things from there. So I started to get ready, and I'm driving into the office, and I'm already getting bombarded with phone calls.
Sure.
The media, to their credit, was very quick to find out about this.
So it sounds like, obviously a rapidly evolving event. As you're driving into the office, what were some of the priorities you're starting to think about from the public information side as you're getting hit with those phone calls?
Well, first of all, I wanted to get a handle on what was going on, and then I wanted to generate or determine what's the message. What is the message that we're going to communicate to the media and ultimately to the public? But I needed to get into the office. I needed to physically get into the office so I could talk with the deputy director about that first.
Right. And what priorities did you get out from that point? You mentioned you wanted to get to a point where representing the county, right? That you're pushing information out to the media. Was that more along the lines of public awareness that the incident was happening, or was it, shelter in place, that kind of stuff going on?
So by the time I got to the office, the suspect was dead.
Okay.
He was already dead.
Okay.
So what we did was we came up with something that was very brief, but just very concise and coherent. And we just called it a threat at that point. The threat had been neutralized. So that lets people know that there's no more danger to the community.
Sure.
And that was very important for us to convey.
Now, I noticed that when we watched that event unfold, many of us saw that, especially in the emergency management community. We knew that you'd be working with a bunch of different agencies and the hospital and other groups. How did you utilize the joint information system to work with all those entities to make sure the messaging was consistent?
Well, I want to say I've taken a few courses.
Sure.
I've been a PIO for 4 years.
Sure.
I had a career in journalism prior to that, 25 years covering crime and emergency news. So I knew a little bit about emergency management, but 4 years as a public information officer, and I've taken a lot of courses, and those courses are great, and they give you the framework. But as we know, what is in a textbook isn't always what happens in real life. And so you talk about the joint information system. It was just me.
Right.
There was no system, or I was the system.
Right,
I guess
right.
you could say. But I had a lot of support. So I arrive at the scene. Our mobile command unit, which is this big truck that we have dispatchers on it. It's run by 911. They were there. So I was able to, that was my home base. I was able to physically stand there with my laptop and hook onto their Wi-Fi. So that was very important.
Sure.
Because there were subsequent messaging that needed to go out. So 911 was there to support me, and then I actually was duty officer that week for the Office of Emergency Management. So we go week by week. There's always somebody that's on call. It just so happened that that week was my week to be on call. Well, those duties got shifted to a coworker of mine.
Okay.
And so then I was able to work solely as PIO. And it was just me. Now, in hindsight, and what I'm actually trying to set up now is to get a cadre, if you will, a cohort of PIOs from around the county who I can call on to assist me. And that would be more in line with the Joint Information System.
Right. And that would be to help you with those responsibilities, right?
Right. So
you were doing everything.
Yeah, I was doing everything. So we have somebody who's just working social media, somebody who's monitoring social media for rumor control, then somebody who's dealing with the media that's on scene. So you could have 3, 4, 5 different roles.
Was there any need to interface with the hospital, or not necessarily just UPMC, but communications coming from an entity? Did you have any?
Oh yeah, that was a priority. You
Sure.
talk about priorities. We can talk about kind of philosophical priorities of being accurate and being fair, and being timely, but also what I really needed to do was I needed to connect with who's in command. And as far as I could tell, so you're kind of just asking whomever you can, okay, who's in command? Who's in command? And it looked as though it was either this chief or that chief or police chiefs, or maybe it was the two of them.
Right.
So I found one of the chiefs, and I said, hey, chief, like what do you want me to? I'm here to help. And he said, oh, the media is sequestered at the rear of the building. I said, okay, I'm gonna go talk to them, because prior to that, I had put out just that brief line I was telling you about, with that the threat had been neutralized.
Sure.
But I knew that there were cameras. I knew that there were a lot of cameras, and that they needed something visual. And I think that just comes from my background as a reporter.
Right.
I said, I have to at least give them me, give them something physical, give them something visual. So I went down there and I read the same line that I had written before, but with the added part about that there was now a phone, there was a line that had been established for anyone who was concerned about their family member who was in the hospital, either as an employee or a patient or a visitor.
Yeah, I think the idea, of those gaps are going to get filled in somehow, right? And you being able to go there as an official on the record, providing information, allowing them to get something on camera, right? I think is big, especially in a developing situation.
Right.
Was there an influx of, we know this is a local event, but was there an influx at the time, that moment, of national media coming to you because of
it
the
had
size
already
of the
started.
event?
It had already started. Like when I was in the office before, and my boss is like, you need to get to the scene. You need to get to the scene. And I'm taking phone calls, and some of them were from CNN or New York Times.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that overabundance, right? You get on the national scale. It certainly makes it a lot harder.
Yeah. I had a feeling.
Sure.
That the story was of that magnitude.
Yeah. And like you said, having that cadre of people as a lesson learned, to have people come in and help support.
Oh, absolutely. It would have been a great help. We got by as best we could, but and actually, I mean, I think we'll get into this, but I did have help later on as it kind of shifted to the state. When kind of the state took over things.
Sure, to assist with that. State police, I imagine. Okay.
Yes.
How did you handle information sharing on social media? What was coming into you, and also how you guys were getting stuff out?
Well, some things happened organically. So I honestly can't remember how I was made aware of this, but one media outlet put that this incident happened at a York hospital. And we have York Hospital,
right?
WellSpan York Hospital. So I had to call her, and the reporter that I was dealing with at that particular media outlet, and say, "Can you please change that? You could go ahead and use UPMC Memorial Hospital."
Sure.
Because it's going to be very confusing for people. It already is confusing.
Absolutely.
For people. So I was getting feedback, that is confusing. And then from that conversation, she said, "Hey, there's another media outlet that's putting out a phone line. We called it and we didn't get an answer." I said, "Oh, well, let me call it." I called it, and sure enough, I'm standing right outside the building, and it went to somebody at Memorial, and they said, "Yeah, this is the line that people can use if they want to check on their loved ones." And I said,
Okay.
"Great." And so that became the second part of what I
Made the
gave
statement.
to the media. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how fast that works. So were there any responsibilities you had to push things out on social media at the same time as one person? Or was your focus more the traditional media outlets just because of how fast this was unfolding?
I was kind of toggling back and forth.
Okay.
So I made that one statement, and then I was, if I wasn't doing that, then I was on the laptop, and delivering messages that way. And then like I said, state police. I was made aware that state police were there, and so I connected with the trooper who is he's a PIO, so same as me, and I've known him for a few years anyway, and so he then put out the next release.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of a handoff.
Yeah. So you're supporting him with information.
Yep, and I moved to inside the lobby, sitting right next to him. I was inside the lobby, and initially when I first walked into that lobby, it was wall to wall people.
Sure.
And just law enforcement and hospital personnel, politicians, all of it. And so so we were seated at the front desk in the lobby.
Sure.
He put out the news release with some more details, and then I just assisted in reposting that, utilizing all of like the York County social media, OEM social media, 911 social media. I have access to all. I'm the admin for all of those.
Sure.
So just kind of just blasting it out there exponentially.
That's great. And it sounds like when you got a chance to interface with the PIO from the state police, you almost had a kind of a mini de facto joint information center.
You could say that, yeah.
Because you were together. So that was a true location-based, incident-based conversation.
Yeah.
That's great. What do you feel was successful in the public information role? What were one or two things that you felt like you walked away from this incident saying, hey, you know what, we really did our job well here?
I think finding out as soon as I could about the media, where they were, and then getting to them as soon as I could, and first okaying it with command. Hey, I kind of just said I'm going to go down there, but really, there was an ask for permission in there.
Sure.
But I just said, hey, I think it's best if I go down there and give them something. I think that I tried my best to get to them as quickly as I could, but also to let them know this is all I can give you. I can't give you any more. So by and large they seem
okay with that.
Fairly satisfied. I mean, as a reporter, you're never entirely satisfied.
Sure.
But I think they knew that I was at least making the effort. So I think that worked, and I truly appreciated having our mobile command unit there, so that I had a home base to work from. That was very key.
Right, and being right there with your dispatchers, because those dispatchers, when you guys have your command unit, are pretty much assigned to that event, right?
Correct, they are.
Right, so that's kind of an information hub in itself, just by the very nature of it.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this: what, as the event finalized and you demobilized, we had some conversations previously. What responsibilities did you have after that because of the loss of life of Officer Duarte?
Well, I was contacted by the coordinators of the funeral to assist in getting the word out there about that. And so I remember one morning, I don't know if it was a day or two before the funeral, at really early in the morning, talking with one of the stations, talking about things. And I had prepared a statement, and I passed it by the West York Borough Police Chief. and he said, yeah, that's fine. And so there was a statement that I prepared, and so I pretty much was able to memorize it, and there were maybe a few tweaks here and there, but it was a statement that I stuck with during the funeral, and so yeah, moving to that, I pretty much knew that I would have to, how to say this, be a shepherd of the media.
Sure.
And because they were, and the coordinators were very generous. They at Living Word, they gave them a parking lot, so you can park here, and then over here you're going to have a clear view. This is where you stand with your cameras, and the column of the procession is going to come right down here, and they're going to turn this way right in front of you.
Sure.
They had a great view, but that's where they needed to stay, and so I had to kind of corral them every once in a while, because as a reporter, sometimes you tend to wander.
Start to wander off.
Start to wander. And then there was one incident where I found out that a particular reporter had been at the funeral home prior. And it was pretty much known that they didn't want any media there. So I did have to tell her that I was made aware of that.
Right.
And that wasn't the right thing to do. And she had said, well, I was told by my bosses to go there, and I said, that kind of sounds like plausible deniability to me. And I had, from where I picked her up visually, she was walking from the building, and I just said, well, I hope you weren't in the building right now, and she said no. So sometimes you have to balance it. It's a delicate balance. You want to be respectful. They have a job to do. I did it for 25 years. I get it. So you want to balance that with, sometimes you have to be firm and lay down the law a little bit.
It sounds like after this event, just from your conversation, that this kind of happened organically because people knew you and knew the work that you did to help push information out to the media about the funeral event, which was several days after.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for PIOs? Do you if they deal with an event like this, how do they keep involved with that? Would that be something that they should offer those services if they can, or stay in contact with individuals, or how would you go about that had you not been asked to help support that as advice for the next?
No, I think when I started as a PIO, so you've got to kind of lay the foundation. When I began this job, we made it known to all the police chiefs and all the fire chiefs that my services are available. That I don't just represent the Office of Emergency Management. I don't just represent York County 911. I can represent all of them. And matter of fact, I think you probably remember the plane crash that occurred at 83 and the Turnpike. I was honored to that state police asked me to speak for them. So you kind of lay that groundwork, and also the fact that I've been a reporter for so many years in the York area, I think that helped as well with people just feeling comfortable with me in that role to help them, and I was more than happy to. I was honored to. It's
the time tale of building those relationships before anything happens in the first place. Right?
That's the lesson there, for sure. Well,
this is my last question for you. Any final words of advice for the emergency management community in handling an event in their jurisdiction? And I want you to look at that through the lens of not only the PIO, but we know we have a lot of emergency managers and offices that are a one-person shop. How important it is to get that communication out, whether you're the PIO or you're the PIO by de facto as the EM coordinator.
Right. So, in emergency management, we have gray sky days and we have blue sky days. The gray sky days are when bad things are happening, and then the blue sky days is essentially we're preparing for the gray sky days. So the preparation is key. I think we're constantly at the York County Office of Emergency Management, constantly training and planning and preparing for these things. But the reality is you don't know when it's going to happen, and no amount of planning and preparation can totally make you ready for something like this. But you do the best you can with what you have, and just Also keep in mind, that it's an evolving situation.
Right.
So you have to be able to pivot to where you need to be and where you can be the most effective.
Sure. Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up?
Well, I'm happy that there is a support system out there. That's been tremendous. So many agencies and organizations have stepped up and said, hey, we're offering counseling
Sure.
in various formats for those, and I'm still posting about it on OEM's social media that's out there, because from all that I understand, there are still people who are dealing with it, who are
absolutely
suffering. So
we know there's a lot of, especially in recent years, just the discussion about first responder mental health awareness and understanding. We have to digest quite a bit at times that most people don't have to, and we see a lot of that over lifespan. So I appreciate you bringing that up as seek the help. It's there. It's offered. Use it. Sometimes it's a conversation, and it helps you get through and decompress, so you're not taking it with you.
There was an image that I'm thinking about right now is one of the officers who was injured. He made a visit he visited York County 911.
Sure.
He wanted to thank the dispatchers.
Absolutely.
And the dispatchers are like, thank you.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
Yeah.
And there were, there was hugs all around and
I can bring closure. All sides.
So that was just, it was great to see, that he, as soon as he could, he got bandaged up and
came over
with his family to thank the dispatchers.
Wow.
And we've had, and since that time, we've had visits from therapy dogs for the dispatchers.
Sure.
So it's been great.
A lot of heroes that day, for sure. Well, Ted, thank you for coming in and chatting about this, sharing your experiences with the emergency management community. We appreciate all that you've done in the past, what you did for this incident, and sharing your knowledge.
Just my little
with us.
part, you know what I mean? That's all it was. I did what I could, but
Thank you. Appreciate it.